All right, guys, we got adulthood and aging today. We're going to talk about psychosocial stages with my guy, Erik Erikson. What a name. We'll also look at happiness over a lifetime. I'll give you some pro tips about happiness. Can money buy happiness? I don't know. It's complicated. All right, we'll start with psychosocial development. And Erik Erikson, he actually changed his own name to Erik Erikson. Great idea. I love it. Erikson examined development in a social context, not just during childhood, but over the lifespan. He updated and modified Freud's psychosexual stage theory, which is weird, but actually expanded it. His theory identifies 8 stages, each with an issue or a crisis you have to go through, and each one of those, depending how you go through them, shapes our personality and our relationships. All right, so the first stage here is during our infancy, the first year of life, 0 to 1, and the issue is trust versus mistrust. I'd write down the age, so infancy, and I'd write down the issue, trust versus mistrust. They're all kind of self-explanatory. Babies, if their needs are being met, they're going to develop that sense of trust. So if they're crying and mom comes and feeds them, boom, they're good to go. The second stage during the toddler years, 1 to 3, autonomy versus shame and doubt. And autonomy, think about independence. If you've ever been around toddlers, you know they love to do things themselves, feed themselves, choose their own clothes, get dressed. Even if they're really bad at it, they love that independence. The third stage is preschoolers. So 4, 5-year-old kids, initiative versus guilt. It's that natural curiosity. These kids are always asking why. Why this? Why this? And you're like, I don't know. And then they're also starting to develop morality. And if you go back to Kohlberg, he would say this is kind of where morality begins. Fourth stage is grade schoolers. So think elementary, 4th, 5th graders, industry versus inferiority, building that self-confidence that they can do things themselves, build relationships, do well in school, all those sort of things. Stage 5, adolescence, identity and role confusion makes total sense. Think back to when you were a freshman or maybe late middle school. You were trying different things, trying different sports, listening to different music, different friend groups, and you're trying to figure out and create that sense of identity. Zoom. All right. 6th stage, we have young adults, intimacy and isolation. It's a big age range here, 20 to 39. But most people, as they're going through this time of life, they're thinking about like dating, maybe getting married. Are they going to be single? Are they going to be getting in a relationship, long-term relationships? And then how do they balance that with school, work, hobbies, all those different things? Stage 7, middle adulthood, 40 to 65, generativity versus stagnation. This might be like the midlife crisis. If you're looking back on your life, you're happy with where you are, you're going to keep moving forward, or you're not happy where you're at in life and you want to change things. Last, we have older adult, integrity versus despair, over 65. Now, at this point, you're looking back on your life. Are you happy with what you accomplished, or are there regrets that you're holding on to? Integrity versus despair. All right, getting on to happiness and life satisfaction. Teens report having more stress than ever before. 10 to 15% of teens struggle with depression. Girls, more than boys. This may be due to a couple different things. One is lack of sleep. This could lead to higher anxiety. Guys, I'm telling you, one of the best things you can do for your mental health, your physical health, academics, athletics, is get more sleep. Teens do not get enough sleep. They need as much sleep as toddlers. Your brains are changing so fast and you're growing so much. You need that sleep. Now, naps count. Naps count. That's a bonus. Teens get about an hour less of sleep a night than they did a decade ago. Really, you should be getting about 9 hours of sleep if you're a teenager. Cultural timetables for milestone events. These are big events. Think about like when people are supposed to get married or supposed to buy a home or have children. It varies culture to culture, but when are you supposed to have that and when have you passed those milestones? Young parents often report a dip in happiness levels after having kids. We're going to look at a chart here in a minute, but probably the biggest thing, well, one, having kids is hard. But 2, change. We know change. Even if it's good change, bad change, that causes stress on us, whether it's good or bad. Married individuals, this is fun, live longer and report being happier overall. However, if you stay in an unhappy marriage, that leads to greater risk for chronic illness or disease. Some ways to have lower divorce rates: more education, getting married later in life. Those both correlate with lower divorce rates. Just married couples report slightly lower happiness levels. Again, you think about, why is this? They're in love. They just got married. This is great. But again, that change, there's change in life, and that can be stressful. That can lower happiness. The most happy couples, I love this, report sharing decisions, home and childcare responsibilities, and feeling supported by their partners. Those are all correlations. Financial success does not always lead to higher happiness, but if we can avoid external expectations, we will have higher life satisfaction. I will get back to financial influences here on happiness in just a second. Other things: having a religious community, having a strong social network, and also good health, those are all associated with higher happiness levels. These are not restricted to any particular time in life, from childhood up through older adulthood. Those are always true. Now, older adults have higher levels of life satisfaction. You look at this little chart here, and you see it kind of starts high, dips down in the 30s and 40s, and then we kind of have a bringing back up of that happiness or that life satisfaction. Some of the things that are going on here: there's less mental health issues with older adults. Usually they engage in more meaningful activities, and you know this if you have grandparents, they're less concerned with how they are perceived. My grandpa, he's great. I love him, but he doesn't care. He does not care. He's kind of lost his filter over time. All right, I told you we'd come back to it. Does more money equal more happiness? Let's think about this. I'm going to show you just a little bit of this video clip, but while watching, think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Go back, think about it's that pyramid. We got our basics on the very bottom, food, shelter. Then we have like safety, we have relationships, and then at the top we have self-actualization. Think about, what can money buy us on those levels? Can it buy the basic needs? Yes. Can it buy safety, relationships, self-actualization? Think about that. Think about that. Also, going back to older adults, do you think older people are more intrinsically motivated by themselves internally, or externally motivated, what other people think about them? Check out this little video clip here.
The relationship between money and happiness is not quite as simple as we've historically assumed. Research shows that money can drastically improve happiness for those who can't afford the basics, shelter and food. But once basic survival needs are fulfilled, money has less and less of an impact on happiness. A person who makes $50,000 per year is far more happy than someone who makes $5,000, but someone who makes $50 million per year isn't much more happy than the person that makes $50,000. In the last century, the American income has tripled, even factoring for inflation. We have bigger houses, more cars, and fancier toys, but surveys show that happiness has stayed the same. Let's examine Maslow's famous hierarchy of human needs. On the bottom, we see physiological needs, otherwise known as food, shelter, breathing, and sleep. Above that, we have safety, love, esteem, and self-actualization. As we examine this hierarchy, we can see that the higher you go on the pyramid, the less effect money has on the need. This is the very reason why money has a diminishing return on happiness. Psychologists have discovered that there are essentially two types of happiness: extrinsic and intrinsic. Extrinsic focuses on money and material wealth, image and status. Happiness derived from these external sources result in a short-lived dopamine spurt and a never-ending state of wanting more. Intrinsic happiness, on the other hand, is derived from following a passion, personal growth, making the world a better place, or loving relationships with family and friends. Intrinsic happiness generates a long-lasting joy from within and is a feeling that money simply cannot buy.
Okay, let's talk about older adults. Daniel Livingston described a midlife transition starting around the age of 40. You know this. This midlife crisis can be seen as a last chance to achieve goals. This goes right along with what Erikson was talking about in that generativity versus stagnation stage. He's talking about stagnation, feeling stuck. Now, this may be more of a myth, as many people don't necessarily experience it. Midlife may actually offer new freedoms, new opportunities. Think about this in your job in your 50s. You're probably making more money. Your children are probably becoming more independent. If you have kids, and you're going to have more opportunities to do stuff for yourself. Some older adults do develop dementia. That's deteriorating cognitive abilities. This can be memory, but it also can just be thinking, processing, other types of cognitive activities. After 50, we know that frontal lobes begin to deteriorate to some extent. Not necessarily fast, but at some extent, our brains, our frontal lobes start to decline. Another term here is terminal drop. That's declining in cognitive abilities just weeks before death. So maybe, very sad, maybe you've been around a grandparent who's doing good, and then all of a sudden just cognitive abilities dropped really fast. Usually in the next few weeks, they'll end up passing away. Alzheimer's is a specific form of dementia, and it's kind of anecdotal that everybody who gets old gets Alzheimer's, and that's just not true. It's a pretty low percentage. Now, it does go up with age, but at 71, over 71, only about 14% of people have dementia. And that's degenerative, and it's progressive. It's specific for memory loss. It's progressive memory loss. And this disease is associated with lower levels of acetylcholine, that neurotransmitter. So remember, acetylcholine, Alzheimer's, AA. You got it. Finally, how do we avoid this? Risk of dementia is reduced by staying cognitively active and physically active. So you want to keep your mind sharp, you want to be thinking, and also you gotta stay physically active. They're so interconnected. All right, finally here we have Elizabeth Kubler Ross. She worked with terminally ill patients and she conducted interviews. Now, with these interviews, she made all these observations about the stages of death and dying, but she never intended for her work to be generalized and realized that dealing with death can be highly variable with different individuals. But she did categorize these into these 5 different stages. So first we have denial. A lot of people go through denial, not accepting the diagnosis, wanting a second opinion or third or fourth opinion. Next, anger, feeling unfairness about this. Bargaining, negotiating for more time. This could be with a doctor. It could be through religious beliefs also. Depression, realizing that death is inevitable. And finally, hopefully reaching acceptance, coming to terms with death and being able to say your goodbyes. I love this little video clip here.
You can expect to go through 5 stages. The first is denial.
No way, because I'm not dying.
Second is anger.
Why, you little...
After that comes fear.
What's after fear? What's after fear?
Bargaining.
Doc, you got to get me out of this. I'll make it worth your while.
Finally, acceptance.
Well, we all got to go sometime.
Mr. Simpson, your progress astounds me.
All right, guys, we did it. We made it. Review time. I got 4 questions today. 4 questions. Here we go. First question. Well, bonus question. Which is the best cheese? Brie. Brie cheese. That's my favorite. I love brie cheese. I'm in my early 50s. I'm not in my early 50s. If I do not reach out to others, especially young people, Erik Erikson says I will experience shame, doubt, isolation, stagnation, or despair. Think about it. The answer is D for dairy. I love dairy. Yum. All right, next question. Which of the following individuals is likely to experience the highest level of happiness? Is it Becca, who has 2 children under the age of 4? No, that's hard. That's a hard life right there. Melba and Doyle, who have just retired. Tom, who makes $450,000 a year but is unhappily married. Garrett, who's married, has 2 teenage girls and works 80 hours a week as a computer engineer. Or Colton, a recent graduate who just moved to a new city where he doesn't know anyone. Let me move my face, see if the picture helps. What do you think? The answer is B for balance. Getting retired. Oh man, is going to be awesome. Next question. Chances of this doubles every 5 years until the age of 85. It's associated with lower levels of acetylcholine and the presence of specific genetic traits. People with this may experience extreme changes in personality. I bet you can think of it. I bet you got it. Is it frontal lobe deterioration, Alzheimer's disease, dementia, terminal drop, or midlife crisis? What is going on in that picture there? Cappuccino. Cookie. It's a specific kind of cookie. It is B for biscotti. Oh man, I love biscottis. Last question. Here we go. According to Erik Erikson, as a young adult, you're most interested in developing initiative, integrity, generativity, trust, or intimacy. It is intimacy. It's E, but you're never going to get it. It's not the Eiffel Tower. It is early morning. Early morning in New York right there. It's the sunrise, my friends. Great job. All right. Do me a favor. Look over your notes. Take 30 seconds, go over your notes, give me a 1-sentence summary, 20 words or so. It helps solidify this information. Writing this down, reviewing information. If you review it 2, 3, 4 times, it's going to be stuck in your head. Do that. You guys are the best. Be a super student. Check out the next video. It's over there, or it's both. I don't know. Anyway, you guys are awesome. Great job today. Time for lunch.